Homo sapiens. That's us. We find ourselves in the order of primates. Our closest living relatives are chimpanzees, but our incredibly limited extended family of primates includes all the great apes and lesser apes, and the monkeys of the Old World and New, and all the prosimians from Tarsiers to lorises to lemurs. Beyond that, there are no living primates. Sad. But there were plenty more to this story across time, and either way, the story's not yet closed. Let's now consider the basic story of the history of primates. Primates are most closely related to animals that are fond of insects, the dermopterans, or colligos, and the tree shrews. Like those creatures, our earliest primate-like ancestors were likely arboreal animals acquiring their food from branches high in trees and in bushes, eating insects as well as fruit, seeds, and nectar. Moving on to the tangible world of fossils, starting around 60 million years ago, we have fossil plesiadapiforms from North America and Europe that are largely gone by the early Eocene. Looking like rodents, and likely living like them as well, most of these species are small. One mouse-sized plesiadapiform, Carpolestes, didn't have stereoscopic vision, as primates do, and it also couldn't leap like similarly sized primates can. The earliest actual primates enter the scene in the early Eocene 55 million years ago, and are known to us from North America and Eurasia. These are the adapids and the omomyids. The adapids first. Most of them were fruit and leaf eaters, had skulls closer to lemurs than tarsiers, and likely moved like lemurs. The best preserved adapid animal we have is Darwinius. The tooth development of one juvenile Darwinius, Ida, still has its deciduous teeth in, and from the relationship of the rate of the body and teeth development, it indicates that the earliest primates were already having a relatively delayed maturation lifestyle. All primates nowadays have small litters that develop slowly and live long. Behaving more like tarsiers, having a more tarsier-like skull, and likely more closely related to the tarsiers than to the lemurs, and therefore more closely related to us, as among the prosimians, tarsiers are the closest relative to the anthropoids. So more like the tarsiers are the small, active, nocturnal, forest-living, and insect-eating omomyids. The northern continents made their way progressively northward as the Eocene wore on, and by the end of the Eocene, 34 million years ago, primates are almost all gone from northern latitudes. Genomic data has it that it was sometime during the Eocene that lemurs had reached Madagascar, to which they were eventually confined. Nearly 100 species of lemur populate the African island today. The Eocene is also the time from when the oldest tarsier fossils are known. Tarsiers are genetically closer to the anthropoids than the other prosimians, and are the only prosimian with a dry nose, which is characteristic of anthropoids. In the middle of the Eocene, the first anthropoid fossils appear. The living anthropoids consist of the New World monkeys, the Old World monkeys, and the hominoids, which are the lesser apes, the great apes, and us, or more accurately, the lesser apes and the great apes. In contrast to the prosimians, anthropoids tend to be fairly social, living in anything from a group to a crowd, having single births, and spending the daytime awake. The very oldest anthropoid fossils come from India, Pakistan, and China in the form of the Eosimias. They range from 45 to 40 million years ago. Far more, however, is known of a fauna from Fayum, Egypt, from 36 to 33 million years ago. At least 19 distinct prosimian and anthropoid species have been found in the Fayum deposits, and at least some of the anthropoids are clearly sexually dimorphic, with larger males than females, with the males having as well larger canines. It was sometime towards the end of the Eocene that primates first reached South America, and that evolutionary branch leaves behind today the New World monkeys. Neither prosimian nor ape-like fossils have been found in South America. The two existing groups of Old World monkeys are the colobines and the Cercopithecines. Predating the earliest forms reflecting this division, we have Victoriopithecus of 17 to 15 million years ago in North and East Africa. By the late Miocene, the two modern groups of colobines and Cercopithecines had appeared, and some left Africa for Europe and Asia by the time the Miocene had come to a close. With the prosimians, New World and Old World monkeys haven't gotten going. The one remaining group to consider are the hominoids. The living hominoids are the gibbons, orangutans, gorillas, chimps, and us. All of those, other than the gibbons, are our family, the Hominidae. In Africa, in the early Miocene, 20 million years ago, prosimians and monkeys were around but rare. Hominoids, in contrast, flourished. The dominant species type at the time was proconsul. We can place proconsul as an ape from their teeth. Their teeth are relatively small and thinly enameled, like living African apes. The males ranged from the size of a cat to a large dog, from 9 to 110 pounds, and unlike all current apes, it had a pronograde posture. They mostly foraged and browsed in trees with a brain size similar to monkeys that do the same today. In the late Miocene, 14 million years ago, proconsul went extinct. Other hominoid types from the Miocene are the Dryopithecines and the Shivapithecines. Dryopithecines, eating leaves and ranging in size from a small monkey to a chimpanzee, raided out of Africa into Eurasia sometime between 13 and 8 million years ago. They were particularly populous in southern Europe. Shivapithecines lived only in Asia and were larger and more terrestrial than the Dryopithecines, and are thought to be ancestors or close relatives to the orangutans. In the late Miocene, Dryopithecines and Shivapithecines died off, with the remarkable exception of a several hundred-pound Shivapithecine named Gigantopithecus, who survived up until between 300,000 and 250,000 years ago. Unfortunately, the fossil record largely shuts off in the late Miocene for African hominins. This is likely because the ancestors of gorillas and chimpanzees had made the transition to tropical rainforests, in which fossilization is near impossible. For the time being, we mostly only have lone teeth from this time period. Nonetheless, the genes come to the rescue. From the remaining apes in Africa, about 9 million years ago, the first ancestors, who aren't common between gorillas and the combined species of chimps and humans, were born. Around 6.6 million years ago, the same happened for the ancestors of chimps and us. In the Pliocene, the fossil record picks up again.